Hello, welcome everyone. This is our recorded version of our LinkedIn live session that we had today. And I am Bala Vishal, your host. I've been in the B2B marketing space for over 15 years, worked with media companies, worked with early stage startups. And one recurring theme which has been there is building early stage pipeline, which has always been a big challenge. And to discuss this topic and this apt topic, actually, given the economic climate, is Iyer, the CEO of Kwanzoo. Welcome, Mani.
Hey, thanks, Bala. I'm really looking forward to this conversation with you.
Absolutely. All right. So should we jump right in?
Yeah.
If you can give us, the viewers a little bit of background and context on what Kwanzoo is and what your journey has been, that will really help. Let's kind of set the stage before we kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. So, thanks, man. So, Kwanzoo certainly has been in business for several years. We were one of the first companies movers into the ABM's category of space when it first came about. But the early version of Kwanzoo were certainly, our earliest technology was more on account-based advertising, and we've evolved into a much broader, platform technology solution into B2B companies. We primarily serve, I would say, mid-market B2B companies all the way to high-tech startups. And like everybody else, we've been seeing the evolution of the ABM space in the last few years. And more recently, what we have been focusing on at Kwanzoo is really, the traditional ABM market we're seeing has been breaking up a little bit. You've got companies like Demandbase and Sixth Sense. They're focused in certain areas. We see a significant gap in the market and an opportunity to focus on specifically where heads of growth, heads of demand work hand in hand collaboratively with the head of inside sales, SDRs, BDRs, and then supported by the RevOps teams around B2B pipeline development. So we think there's a huge gap in the market around the top of the funnel, early stage pipeline development. There's some significant issues, challenges that customers face, and there are gaps in the current technology and stack that's out there and available. So that's where we focus, Bala.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that gap that exists, and it's not a gap that's something new. It's been existing for some time.
Right.
So going into that gap and kind of talking about the early stage pipeline piece, what do you specifically see? I mean, like what do you mean by like building a richer, deeper early stage pipeline? I mean, just to give some context to the viewers, I mean, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So look, at the highest level, I think of three things, right, that keeps most demand marketers, growth marketers, and those inside sales BDR leaders up, right? Mm-hmm. One is, are we seeing, do we have a challenge of, say, not enough high quality leads, real people that we can action, we can follow up with? Everybody loves to talk about ABM, accounts. Yes, high quality leads from the accounts you care about. That's a given, right? The second thing is, is the sales organization engaging with, enough of the, call it in-market accounts? Companies that are in market for the product technology solution that you as an organization have to offer. That's the second thing, right? The third thing that people really are always trying to figure out, am I getting enough traffic, qualified traffic, the right companies, right account, right buyers, buying groups, buying teams, and so forth. Those to me are the three core problems. And there's several issues we see with the current set of ABM tools and technologies. We're also seeing tools on the sales side in terms of any tools that the salespeople work with. So we have literally built out a platform that focuses on solving a lot of those problems. And think of it as another core critical component of your B2B go-to-market tech stack that we plug right in. And we can sit side by side with an ABM tool. So in fact, many of our customers actually use Kwanzoo with an ABM platform. They're good at some things, and then we fill in the gaps and the holes in several other areas. But at the core of it, we are solving problems to solve the three things that I brought up that are top of mind for growth leaders, demand leaders, and inside sales leaders.
Interesting. Yes, I mean, that makes complete sense. So if I rephrase it, it's the process, framework, and the mindset that needs to really change. With respect to growth marketers, demand gen marketers, however you call it, and the right tool stack to kind of make the strategy kind of go well. Is that right?
Yeah, you need both. And then we certainly seen some specific areas where the current tools and the way they are able to pull data in have some gaps. And the way they handle processes have some significant issues and challenges. And we have been solving for those, which, I'm happy to get into a discussion around that next.
Yeah, that definitely resonates. In all my years of experience, like different size of companies, this is kind of a common recurring challenge, and that definitely is the case. Maybe let's just go into some specific, right? Let's say it's a mid-market company with about $500 million in revenue. We could say in terms of roles and in terms of teams that are involved in the early stage eco pipeline creation, what would you recommend, and how would you kind of go about that?
Yeah. So I think, as I mentioned earlier, the principal folks we see is people in these kind of roles, right? You have your people in growth, people in demand, people in again, they may even come from an ABM type of background. As you go out, and then on the sales side, certainly the inside sales leader, SDRs, BDR leaders. Some of these companies use external SDR, BDR teams. Then you'll have like a team lead for that external SDR team, maybe one or more organizations, the companies that are involved. And then, of course, supported by RevOps. So you certainly have somebody in marketing ops, somebody in sales ops, for whom their concern always is, if I bring in any tool, any tech, can I make life easier for myself? And then for these SDR, BDRs leaders, what keeps them up at night always is, what actionable data, insights, intelligence do I have on the companies that we are going after in terms of our IAP, ICP, the buyers and buying groups at those companies, who is in fact engaging with us right now? So again, we can get into now the details. The details is that, or let me first call out the issue. The issue with many of today's ABM technologies, they stop at the account level.
Right.
We don't think that's good enough. We think what, at the end of the day, the BDR, SDR team really wants to know is, who is the person at that particular account that they need to go have a conversation with. If you look at that, that's in terms of just being able to resolve down to the buyer level. And so one of the core pieces of technology we've introduced in the last 9 months, and that's seeing quite a bit of interest, in fact, adoption across all of our customers, is something we are calling buyer resolution, which I'm happy to get into a longer discussion around. But being able to point out to your SDRs and BDRs, not the tier 1 lead, which is people filling out forms on your site. You'll do that all day long. Not somebody filling out a webinar lead or something, which you're going to pass along. What next? So we call them tier 3 leads. Call it tier 3 leads. You can give it what name you want. But can you tell who showed up on your website, who went to your demo page, your pricing page, your contact us page, did not fill out a form? Can you pass along information on who those people are? First name, last name, email, company, LinkedIn URL, maybe for many other mobile phone number, B2B profile information, even if not B2B, B2C information, first name, last name, personal email. And then the buyer behavior. What pages did they visit? What actions did they take? Is it something the SDR should action right away? If they go to some what they call high value pages. So buyer res is a critical piece. Then we can get into a longer discussion around intent. And of course, that's a whole finding in market accounts where we've seen significant challenges with intent data, which I think is a whole separate topic for conversation, Bala.
Yeah, absolutely. Intent data is a complete holy grail, so to speak, and there's a lot more talk about it. But you hit the nail on the head. The biggest thing in website marketing is like you have people coming to the website, you don't know who they are. Not all of them are going to fill out the form. It's probably only about 7% if you have a great conversion rate strategy. Let's say 7% the benchmark, and you're losing on 93% of the traffic. So even if I'm able to convert 20-30% and get their information, I can probably warm them up. And it makes sense because every team would be looking at that, not just SDR, BDR for their outreach, marketing and warm them up. Marketing ops would love them because they're now looking at something more richer for their marketer and for their automation profiles. Yep, absolutely. So that all makes sense. And I'm assuming you can see this kind of changing across organizations, right? As you kind of go into smaller organizations or you go into bigger organizations, people would be using this differently, or have you seen anything else?
Yeah, definitely. If you take anything, like let's talk specifically about buyer res, what we call it buyer res, buyer resolution. Smaller organizations are just happy to just literally we put a tag on the site. They just want to get the names, right? And then they'll even spend manual spreadsheets even to their SDRs, BDRs and want to action it. Slightly more mature organizations want the whole process automated. They want very, kind of zero touch, right? I mean, so in that case, all these bio-res leads that we talk about, we actually feed it directly into the marketing automation. So it goes in, we get it tagged, we tag it, okay, here's a high value lead, here's a standard lead. And then it goes through that marketing automation, be it Eloqua, Marketo, HubSpot, Pardot, you name it, right? And then it flows through that into the CRM, So the process does change, smaller org versus bigger org. But the hunger is there. People want to get actioning these leads ASAP. As you know, everybody's got a lot of pipeline pressure. So, yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. And just to give context to people, I mean, when you're talking about leads, yes, leads are important. But at the same time, what we are talking about here is more leads which are in market, leads that are from our in-market accounts. So these are not like irrelevant leads. These are still relevant leads that people are going after. There's no waste of time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then I think the next thing maybe to talk about is the intent piece. Intent, there's a lot of noise around intent, and we both know that. And there's a gazillion number of different intent providers. There are many different ways they gauge intent, So it's all the way from some companies look at what keywords are different people bidding on. So there's bid stream type of intent. Then you got intent in terms of what, product listing side, directory side, like a G2 or Trust Radius and others will report on, which is who went and browsed what particular pieces of product or content on their sites. We have our own kind of intent. We can talk about that maybe a little bit, but more important than what type of intent you use, the real struggle we see in mid-market companies is how to operationalize and action the intent. How do I combine the intent from all these different sources and have it make sense in terms of which account across all these sources that are showing signals? Should my SDRs action first? Which one should they action later? How do I rank order all of these accounts that are showing intent across different providers? Because what we've seen in mid-market companies is they don't want to bet all the entire farm on one intent data source. They want to spread out the risk. They want to have a portfolio play, right? They want to have multiple sources of intent data. So that's something we built. We call it unified intent. We kind of bring together all the intent data, make it quick and easy to load, refresh it on a weekly, monthly cycle, and then combine the rank, combine the score, write it into the CRM. So then the SDRs are actioning the right account every single day.
Yeah, unified intent definitely is sounds promising. I'm sure your customers are enjoying it. There's a lot of value they're seeing from it because that definitely is a challenge most demand gen marketers, most growth marketers face. I mean, because we talk about lead scoring, we talk about, you could say a lot about lead scoring when we're talking about MQLs and SQLs, but there is less talk about intent scoring, which is kind of what I think you're referring to here with unified intent. And going back to your buyer resolution piece, that also is like a first party intent data. So you can kind of combine that. So it's kind of truly unified in some sense. Nice. That's awesome. Okay. Cool. Shifting gears a little bit, talking about pipeline. I mean, like, where do you typically see the pipeline breakdown? I mean, when creating early stage pipeline, quality pipeline, where do you see the breakdown? What sees the impact? I have seen a couple of my own anecdotes on that and a couple of things that I've seen, but I'd love to get your perspective on this.
Yeah, listen, I mean, the thing is almost like, I'll say this, the conversation for us always starts with every new client by having a conversation and discussion first around their current state. Right? And so a lot of it we find is discovery. And where things break down could start right at the top with even the way they've defined their IAP or ICP. It may be just way too broad, right? I mean, I don't know if people always necessarily think about what is the capacity that you have in terms of sales and SDR and BDR team execution across, say, 3 or 5 or 10 or 20 BDRs, whoever you have. And then working backwards to say, you know what, this is the capacity I've got to work with, which means I should define an IAP, ICP that's tight enough. And then I should have a clear game plan for the next 3 months, say, for this quarter or the next quarter. And then I can change it, right? So after one quarter, I can switch it up. I can look for another thing. So my point is, you're asking pipeline breakdown. We've seen all the way from call it a poorly defined or ill-defined or too broadly defined IAP, ICP up front. And then you're doing a hunting and pecking in too many corners of your IAP account base. And then you're not necessarily spending your dollars the right way, all the way from the precious, program dollars or media dollars, your webinar dollars, your content syndication lead dollars.
Yeah.
Honestly, it starts right at that very, very top. And then I think the other breakdowns we've seen is now being able to connect the data, the leads coming in, and automating the process of, let's make sure we only provide the high quality in market within the ICP, IAP leads to your SDRs through marketing into sales. So throwing things over the wall that isn't yet tightly buttoned up to be just the one they should be provided in the first place. That's another point of breakdown.
Right.
I think I'm sure as we talk further, we'll find more and more, right? But these are just a couple of examples, Bala.
No, it definitely is kind of reminds me of days, right? Like even you could say a few months back when I kind of reflect back on some of the, you could say, stuff that we were doing. And actually recently, even last week when I was talking to some early stage startup, defining your audience is kind of key. Be it an early stage, a big brand, whichever enterprise, defining the right audience, making it right enough for your product market fit. Which is kind of the key. And one other thing just to add to that is I think messaging, which is also that I've seen, where if the audience is too broad, then the messaging is too broad, and then you're seeing breakdown, you could starting to happen everywhere. So lovely. That definitely is. And so how does Kwanzoo help with that? Is there a way like Kwanzoo helps with defining your audiences, job titles, and everything else, or?
Absolutely. So listen, we have a pretty broad and rich platform in which you can actually go in and define your IAP or ICP, the complete universe of accounts. You can define your buyers in terms of buyer personas. So we're going after directors of marketing, VPs of IT, blah, blah, blah. And then you can define even a buying group or a buying team. We even have that capability. But I think probably more interesting to our listeners is going to be the fact that over the last year, we now have secured a significant data asset. And the data asset, we have literally 260 plus million B2B profiles to 58 million B2C profiles. We also have some 10.9 million accounts. So in fact, for customers who invest in our platform, we're literally giving the data to them. So they don't need to go buy data separately from other sources. They have the data that they need to power their marketing, power their sales. And so the beauty of it is all of the data we provide also is connected to maids and hems and cookies and device IDs. And I'm talking first party audience, by the way, meaning that this is fully safe, secure from all the new rules around third party cookies going away and stuff. And so this is data that can then be used to action account-based advertising programs, display programs. So they get all the data assets to go that they need to power their marketing. And so that's something we've done that actually is, again, pretty unique in the industry now, because customers we think are struggling with too many point providers and point tools and so on. So literally we're trying to call it the comprehensive platform for B2B pipeline development. So whatever tool set they use, we know they're going to use revenue intelligence tools in the sales side for opportunity to close cycle. They may continue to use ABM tools for setting up the marketing programs and campaigns and actioning it and activating across channels. That's fine. But as I said, we're trying to focus on the pipeline development problem.
Yeah, the pipeline development and data is definitely the key piece to it. Today we have lots of data. There's data sources everywhere. It's all about getting that data synthesized in the right place, showing it to the right people, and getting actioned on it, which is kind of key. So as we are wrapping this up, what are the three key pieces that you would want people to remember? So like going back to the discussion about richer, deeper, early stage pipeline. If we say three distinct things that one should be looking at, what would that be?
So I would say definitely, look into this whole business of buyer resolution. It's low-hanging fruit. It's a way to quickly get actionable lead state of your own website that you're already investing so much money into driving traffic. Hey, get those people come in and identify. That to me is rule number one. It's biggest value point, quick hitting, quick turnaround. Within a week or two, you're going to have net new leads. You can start flowing, right? Number one. Number two is make your intent data actionable. Make it truly, truly actionable. Number three is watch your media spend or ad spend, because, huge amounts of money is being spent on ad and media. The default in every marketer's brain is to go put more money into LinkedIn. That's fine. It's very expensive. There are alternatives. You can do programmatic spend as a combined with the LinkedIn spend. you can be smarter about where you deploy media dollars. Those are three things I would say, at least for today's LinkedIn live session.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree. I mean, throwing more money in something and expecting great results is not always the best way to go about it.
Sure.
Throwing money in a more intelligent fashion with the right process, framework, and mindset, again, going back to that is how I see is more success. So love it. I agree. This has been a fun chat. Thank you for joining.
Yep.
What's next? I mean, would we be doing this again?
Yeah, absolutely. We think that, this is a great way for us to engage in a live session, and hopefully next time it'll be for real, for live on LinkedIn, because we need to work out some of the technical stuff, right? This is our first kickoff. So we'll do it as a video recording for today, but then yes, and I hope you'll come back, Bala, and also join us in some of the upcoming sessions. We hope to have the same kind of dialogue and conversation, maybe with a sales leader, inside sales leaders, fractional CROs and CMOs, all kinds of interesting people, and we hope our audience will come back and join the conversation, and lots of Q&A, lots of engagement, and that's what we hope to do.
Sounds like a plan. All right.
Okay.
It was nice chatting with you. Have a great day, and
All
thank
right.
you all for listening in.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, Bala. Talk soon. Bye-bye.